As firefighters and paramedics, we respond to those on the worst days of their lives. And when they're at their worst, we have to be at our best. And to be at our best, we have to have our house in order. I'm running for president of the IAFF because we have to be united. United for the future of this great union, for the future of our jobs, and the future of our families.
It takes a lot to do this job. Grit, sweat, sacrifice, belief in the future. And there's never been a time when firefighters have been needed more. And one firefighter has always answered the call to leadership, Mahlon Mitchell.
We have over 62,000 people here. Right now, they're trying to eliminate our voice. They're trying to desensitize us. They're trying to discredit us, and they're trying to defund us. And we cannot let that happen. I got my dream job when I turned 19 years old, and I never looked back. Firefighting is in my blood. It's in my family's blood. My older brother's a firefighter in Atlanta. My younger brother's a firefighter in St. Paul. One of our mantras is all hands work. Everybody on the scene is doing something to stabilize it, to make the lives of our community just hopefully a little bit better for that time. The future of the IAFF is here. It's time for us to stand up, rise up, and be united. It's time for us to be strong. We can do it together, with all hands working, leaving no one behind as we do as firefighters. Never forget that together we rise.
Mahlon Mitchell for IAFF General President.
Hey, good evening, everyone, and thank you for attending our districts 11, 12, and 14 town hall this evening. My name is Taylor Bolhag, and I'm a staff member for Mahlon's campaign for general president and will be serving as the MC for the call. Now, this is our third town hall of the campaign. Our first was a week ago on Monday and was tailored to locals 100 members and under in size. Our second was for districts 2, 5, and 8. We've had over 400 locals in attendance so far, and we're pleased to see that this event has a high level of participation as well. This campaign is about making sure that every local across the union has access to their general president and a voice in their union. We're excited to have you on this call tonight. Thank you for making sure you're part of the discussion. Now, a brief overview of the agenda this evening. First, you're going to be getting information on how to register for the convention. Then you'll be hearing from a local president on why he is supporting Mahlon for general president. After, you will hear from Mahlon and have the chance to ask him questions directly. We will be using the raised hand feature, which I will explain once we get to questions, but that will allow you to talk directly to Mahlon. You're also welcome to use the chat box. Now, we do have another town hall this evening following this one, so we will have to end at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. We will do everything we can to get to everyone's questions before that. If we do not get to your question, please email mahlon@mitchellforiaff.com and we will get your question answered. Additionally, we also have multiple town halls coming up that you can partake in as well. Immediately after this, we have a town hall with districts 7, 9, and 10 at 8:30 p.m. Central Standard. On Thursday, we have our District 16/Federal Locals Town Hall. Now, that is going to be tailored specifically for federal locals, but we also have Districts 6, 13, and 15 a week from today, and Districts 1, 3, 4 a week from this Thursday. They are broken down by district. However, you're welcome to join any of them, and we encourage you to do so, as well as invite other members of your executive board or local. Now, before we get started, we just want to post a little poll here to see where everyone's at in terms of registering for the convention. Can we have tech support real quick? Drop the poll in and see if we can get our questions answered. All right, we've got a few more folks. Looks like about 17 more of you to answer the question. All right, perfect. And Max, we can probably cut it off there and move on here. So it looks like right now we have about 41% of you have registered for convention, 39% of you have not, and 20% of folks are in process. Now, before we get started, I just want to talk a little bit about that. So taking part in convention and casting your vote for your next general president has never been easier, literally. There's a couple reasons for this. First, the convention fee has dropped substantially to only $100 per delegate. Second, the convention is entirely virtual. It's the first convention in IAFF history where pajama bottoms, or frankly, nothing, is acceptable attire. And third, all voting is being conducted by mail. Every single vote in this election is going to matter. This is the first opportunity that union membership has had to pick their leader and subsequently the direction of their union in over 30 years. The contrast is clear, and we encourage everyone to take advantage of this opportunity and make your voice heard. Now, we're putting in the chat box our one-pager that gives more information on how to register. If you have any additional questions, we encourage you to contact the IAFF membership department. They're there to help. So without further ado, let's get started. First up, we have Ryan Hintz, the president of Green Bay Firefighters Local 141.
Thank you, Taylor. As Taylor said, my name is Ryan Hintz. I'm the president of Green Bay Firefighters Local 141. We've been pretty fortunate in the state of Wisconsin to have Mahlon around since January 2011. So when the time came that he announced his campaign for general president, quite honestly, it was a no-brainer. Just giving you a little feedback, actually watching Mahlon's video. In January 2011, Mahlon became Professional Firefighters of Wisconsin president. In March, then Governor Scott Walker introduced Act 10, which was an anti-labor legislation for the state of Wisconsin. And, you got to look at firefighters, police, and transit. We were carved out of it. We had nothing in the fight. We were fine. Nothing was going to hurt us. And I know a lot of members on this call right now are in right to work states and yearly are fighting anti-labor legislation, but Mahlon wouldn't let us sit on that fight. He, quite honestly, the state was becoming divided at that point. He brought all labor forces together and, he was the one leading the charge. The firefighters that were not part of this whatsoever were leading the charge. So Mahlon's leadership from that standpoint, I remember as a young firefighter sitting there in Madison, freezing my butt off, watching this guy just pounding on the podium and just going, man, this guy's got it. This is the type of leader that we need. Come to find out, he's our state president. So I learned a little more that day. But Mahlon's always been the type that, he's a phone call away at all times. What he's done for our state, it doesn't matter if you're a big local. It doesn't matter if you're a small local. When he makes decisions, it's for everybody. And he's looking out for everybody at all times. And it quite honestly was a no-brainer when his name came out. And Local 141 was ready to endorse. We endorsed Mahlon Mitchell right away with no questions asked. So, you're going to hear a lot from Mahlon tonight. If anybody ever wants my contact information to talk to me, I will tell you anything you know. But there is no person that I personally can see, and my local will stand behind me, that we'd rather see in that general president position than Mahlon Mitchell. So, with that, I'd like to introduce Mahlon Mitchell and take it away.
Thank you, Brother Ryan, and I appreciate that glowing endorsement. And thank you for being one of the early endorsers in this campaign. Thank you all for joining tonight. Brothers and sisters, I know we're all busy. I see some of you are in the firehouse. Some of you are eating. Some of you have a Copenhagen in. That's great. I wish I had one, but I told my wife I would stop chewing a while ago. So mine's in my bag over here. But anyway, I appreciate you joining tonight because we're going to talk about our great union and our future of our union. But for those of you that I have not had the pleasure to meet, my name is Mahlon Mitchell. I currently am the state president of Professional Firefighters of Wisconsin. And as Ryan said, I became president in 2011. We're a state of about 4,000 members, about 60 locals. I'm also president of my home local, Firefighters Local 311, which is housed here in the city of Madison, which is our capital city. We're about 500 members, 400 members in Madison proper, and 100 members that make up our affiliates. We have 13 affiliates. So we are bargaining 14 different contracts at any given year, any given time, from cities that are contiguous to our capital city here. I'm currently still on the line. I am still a firefighter. I'm actually a lieutenant with the city of Madison. I work right downtown here at our central station, Station 1. I've been on the job for 24 years. I was fortunate. I got hired at the young age of 19. I also have two brothers in the fire service. My older brother is down south in Atlanta, Georgia, and my younger brother's up north in St. Paul, Minnesota. So you can say, and it's true, that fire service and giving back to our community and serving our community, it runs in my blood. It's in my bloodline. But why am I running to be your president? Why am I running to be general president of our great union? I actually believe our union is great. And I love the fire service, but more importantly, I love the IAFF. The IAFF has given me and my family and my brother's family everything that we could ask for. It's changed our lives. It's shaped the trajectory of our kids and where we live. But I love the fire service. We have a union that is 323,000 members strong, 323,000 of the best men and women that you can find here on planet Earth. We've organized 123,000 of those just in the 21st century, so we're growing. We are a big, bold, strong union, leading the way in so many things. So when I hear someone talk about how we need to take back our union, or that we need to take our union back from someone who else has it, I don't believe that. This is our union, and this is our union to make bigger, better, and stronger. And as I said, we're leading the way in so many things. Look at cancer research, our presumptives, municipal financial analysis, things we use back as local presidents, GIS mapping and studies, disaster relief funding, our SOP leadership, and at the federal level, the Sadroga Act, our Safer Acts, Safer Grants, and IAFF leading the way so that if any of our members die, and we've already had 21 line of duty deaths because of COVID-19, that their families realize that public safety officers benefit. That's what our union does, and that's what our union provides so that we are safe, so that we in turn can make our communities safe. As a local and state president, when I need the IAFF, they're there by way of services and programs. And brothers and sisters, I truly believe that we are part of the baddest union on the planet. We have made the black and gold brand into a powerhouse. It's coveted by so many wannabe as well as elected officials in US and Canada. The Fight Back program, and I can tell you, Ryan alluded to it, we've taken some L's here in Wisconsin, we've taken some losses. But we dust ourselves off, we get back up. And when we get back up, the IAFF is there by way of services and programs and way of dollars as well as resources. So I believe that we have a bright future here in our IAFF. I don't think we need to take it back from anybody. I think we need to make it better and enhance what's currently going well and get rid of some of the bullshit that isn't going so well. I will tell you, we need a leader right now. We don't need a savior. We have so many challenges ahead of us. COVID-19, civil unrest all across this great country. Our brothers and sisters dying of cancer at crazy rates every year. Our brothers and sisters looking at taking their own lives because of the cumulative effect of what happens over time in our jobs and how it affects our psyche. Not just our physical health, but our mental health. So all these challenges that we have ahead of us, we need to tackle, but we also have some opportunities that we need to seize upon. You know, when I became president in 2011, we had an asshole governor named Scott Walker. He came in and said that he's gonna come in and he is going to divide and conquer. These are his words to one of his biggest donors here in Wisconsin. He's going to divide and conquer our state. He's going to come after public sector employees first. And then he's going to come after right to work. Once we're arguing over here, then he's going to do right to work for private sector workers. He did exactly that. Wisconsin is now a right to work state. But what he did was he left police and fire exempt because he wanted us to fight with our brothers and sisters in public sector. But what he didn't expect was that we did exactly what firefighters do. We responded to an emergency. We responded to the call. In this case, the House of Labor was on fire. And we were there as firefighters to fight back. And we didn't just stand up. We stood out with our flags, our bagpipes, our speeches, and our support. And we still continue to do that to this day. So I'm a fighter. So you know if I'm gonna send us in and all the firefighters of the state to fight for other unions, then I'm gonna fight like hell for you if I'm your general president. But what a lot of people didn't know is that our state association was at a crossroads. We had infighting. We had a district vice president at the time from the IAFF that would not talk to the state president about anything. Matter of fact, they didn't like each other at all. When I became president in 11, we had 8 locals that I sat down with and they said, you know what, Mahlon, nothing against you, but we're getting out of state association. We're sick of all the infighting at the top. Nothing's being done at the top. I said, you know what?
give us 3 years to turn this thing around as a team. They said, we'll give you 2. So fast forward to today for time's sake, we now have every IAFF affiliate that's in our state, part of the Professional Firefighters of Wisconsin now, including Milwaukee. And if you didn't know, Milwaukee's our biggest local in our state, 650 plus members. And they actually were out of our state association for 26 years prior to 2011, before any of the Governor Walker and everything else stuff that was going on. They were out for other reasons. But one of my first calls after the first election recall with Governor Walker was to actually Milwaukee to bring them in. So we have every state or every local affiliate in our state association now, making us stronger. We also started a statewide PAC where we bring in $80,000 a year. I actually cut my salary and we trimmed some fat at the top. We gave $1 per member per month back to our membership. And they in turn, because they believed in the mission, they assessed themselves $1 per member per month. And now we're not able just to play in statewide races. We're actually able to give back to our locals, not just resources, but boots on the ground. I also started a political action team so that we can not just give money for local, county, and referendum races, but boots on the grounds, other members essentially being almost like a strike team, going in and helping out that local so that we can play in the political arena, so that we can get better benefits, hours, wages, working conditions for our members. We also have a statewide conference, like a lot of you do. It's based on educational, legislative leadership conference. When I was president, we had 30 or 40 people that would come to that conference. I would ask them a simple question, why? A lot of our leaders say, you know what, Mahlon, we can't afford it. It's $300 a pop. So again, we came back to the drawing board as a team, as an executive board. We now have it available for 2 members from every local to come for free to our statewide educational conference. We started a charity organization from the ground up, $0 in the bank. We now have close to $1 million in assets and 2 full-time employees at the state level. I do not tell you all this to pat myself on the back. I'm not telling you this to give you a list of accomplishments and say, okay, well, now vote for me. I tell you this is because this is what we can do when we are united as firefighters. This is what we can do when we are united as local leaders. This wasn't about me. It was about our state association. And if you didn't know, we were in a bad place. We had an FEC complaints going on from my things that happened before, a compliance audit from the Department of Labor. We were in the thick of it. There was even talk about just disbanding the whole thing and starting anew or not starting anything at all. So I say these things because we came together and there was one simple question that I put in front of our executive board. The question is this simple. What if every decision we made, if everything that we did and how we carried ourselves was about the members? What if every decision we made was a member-oriented decision? What kind of union would we be if that were the case? That question seems so simple, but it's actually complex. So the way we did it was, we came together, we had a strategic plan that we worked on, looked at our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, and constraints, and we came together as a team. We didn't agree with everything we're not supposed to, but we knew where the hell we were going. I want to do the same thing as your general president of our great union, the IAFF. This is the most important election of our lifetime. We have not had a contested general president election since 1988, from my understanding. This is going to shape the course, not just for the immediate future, but this is going to shape the course for a very long time. Or hopefully when my son gets on the job, he thinks he can be, he's going to get a scholarship to go play basketball or football, and he can go to NFL or the NBA. He thinks he has his choice. Between you and I can tell you he's not going in either. But I want him to have this job better for him when he comes on. And that's what we can do as union leaders, but we only do that together. So by way of policy or platforms or things I would like to see changed or enhanced in the IAFF. And I say this to every group that I talk to, brothers and sisters. I believe that every member of our great union should have the ability to sit down with their employer and talk about hours, wages, and working conditions. Every member, every local should have the ability to collectively bargain. And the people that should be leading the charge in saying that should be folks like me, who have the ability to collectively bargain right now. We should be leading the charge for every public safety officer within this great country to be able to lead, to be able to have the ability to sit down and talk about health and safety, hours, wages, and working conditions. I want to reassess and reaffirm those efforts that the IAFF has already built upon and make sure like hell we get that passed this time. We have to use every stakeholder that we have in the game. We have to talk to Democrats as well as Republicans and tell them we're not asking for them to come to our funerals. We're not asking them to be at our memorials. We're not asking them to pat us on our back at a promotional ceremony and tell us that we're all heroes. We are asking for them to vote the right way when it comes to getting collective bargaining passed at the national level. You have my word. You have my promise that I will fight like hell to make sure that that happens. And these are not just words or hyperbole. We will actually fight. I do it now as a state president for members that are not in our union. So obviously I'm going to do it for the members that are within our great union. Cancer prevention. We are losing members, our brothers and sisters, at crazy rates when it comes to cancer. I've had two of my members here in the local in the past year that have come to me and said they have cancers that are just crazy cancers. One of our members has one that only 220 people get a year in the country. They're not worried about coming back to the job necessarily. They're worried about being alive in a year and a half. So we need to do everything we did. Like when it came to NFPA 1710, and the IAFF stormed that meeting in Anaheim, California, looking at 3, 4, 5, or 6 on a rig. What does it take to make us safe? Low, medium to high hazards. And time to task analysis for what we need to actually do our job. We need to do the same thing when it comes to cancer prevention. Looking at our gear, our PPE, and how the retardants on our gear are actually permeating through our skin and causing us cancer. The gear that's supposed to protect us is actually helping, unfortunately, cause cancer. So everything we do in our power in the IAFF, we need to make sure that we are looking out on behalf of all our members and the men and women who are on the street right now as you and I speak. And we can do that as an IAFF. Another thing we can do as an IAFF, and the IAFF's done a great job, I believe, thus far when it comes to mental health. We need to enhance it, though. The Center of Excellence on the East Coast is fantastic. We've had 8 of our members go. I will make sure that we have the Center of Excellence that's going to be in Riverside County in California, as well as the Center of Excellence up in Canada. The IAFF and the Executive Board are already working on that. I would make sure we continue those efforts. I would also make sure that we get a bill passed at the national level that covers PTSI and PTSD for our members. So requiring states, municipalities, as well as provinces to actually give our brothers and sisters the help they need before it is too late. Making workers' comp pay for the treatment our brothers and sisters need. And not just for PTSI and PTSD, because we all know it goes further than that. What we see in our job and the cumulative effect a lot of times leads to alcoholism, drug abuse, anxiety, depression. So all the things about our mental health, we need to make sure we're doing everything in our power as IAFF leaders to take care of our members. Speaking of taking care of our members, when it comes to health insurance, we're all over the place. I want to work and establish a healthcare plan that the IAFF administers with our partners across the country that will allow our public, our current and active duty members, as well as our retired members to buy into. There are smaller international unions than ours that do that. We can work on a trust, and I believe that we can get that done long term. I also believe in the short term, though, that we can get the bill passed that's in Congress right now that allows public safety officers to buy into Medicare at age 55. That bill is already current in Congress, and the IAFF has been lobbying on that. So I will make sure that we will continue to lobby on that and get that bill passed and across the finish line. There are going to be many attacks that are coming before us. Our pensions are always going to be under attack. Our way of living is always going to be under attack. Our health insurance, again, got to be under attack. The IAFF needs to have the resources and the tools for our members and our local officers to be ready and ably equipped to punch first, not to take the hits and keep them taking them and playing defense, but to play offense. And because they are coming for us, brothers and sisters, as we know, especially with COVID-19, they are coming after us. I want to lead us through this tragedy. I want to lead us through this pandemic and for the future. So all these things I say are somewhat long-term goals. But real quick, what will I do in my first 30 days as your general president? First thing we will do, I will convene a retreat with our district vice presidents, a very talented team in my opinion. I will convene a retreat with our district vice presidents. And it's not a retreat for us to sing Kumbaya. It's not a retreat for us to hold hands and say, okay, well now we're all just gonna get along. No, it's a working retreat where we will look at accountability, transparency, and make the reforms we need to make at the top levels of the IAFF to turn this ship around. We don't all have to agree again, but we need to be on the same page and know where the hell we're going. First thing I would do is make sure we review every contract that IAFF is currently in. And any of those contracts that have no benefit to the membership will be exhausted or terminated. I would also make sure we talk to every top level staff as well as every assistant to the general president. And we will streamline things that we can, like municipal financial analysis that we use here a lot in our local. I will make sure right now with what we're seeing with the pension plan at the IAFF, the 3 pension plans at the IAFF, I will convene a comprehensive audit of all 3 of those plans, which is currently being done. But I'm going to release the findings of that audit to our membership, not to the New York Times, not to the Washington Post, or not to these blogs that don't give a damn about us. I'm gonna release these findings to our local, state, and provincial officers so that they will know and have a true accounting of where we are when it comes to the finances of the IAFF. And I will do the same when it comes actually to the annual budget. Right now, the annual budget is about $75 million. $54 million is made up of the per cap that is sent to the IAFF. So we're talking about a $20 million sweet spot, if you will. I want to make sure that we have a proper accounting, make sure you have a proper accounting of where that money is coming from, how things are being funded, and where things are being spent, and where our money is being spent. And I believe that every member should and has the right to know that. When it comes to our endorsement process, it seems like every 4 years we have a huge divide among our membership of who we endorse, no matter which side you're on. There's no way that we're going to be able to pull 323,000 members. But what we can do, and what I will do, working with the district vice presidents, I will put together a baseline poll that goes out via the DVPs back to state and local officers. And with that poll, we will get a sense of where the members are. Those findings will come back through the DVPs, back to the International Executive Board, and we will make a more informed decision. Again, we are not going to please every one of our members. There's no way we're going to do that. I've said it before and I'll say it again. We could endorse Jesus Christ himself. We would have members that say, you know what? I don't like religion, or I'm with Pontius Pilate, or I'm with Caesar. So we're not going to please all our members. But what we can do is make it more transparent, and I will do that. So our members that want to have a play and want to have a say in the process, they will have that. They'll have the ability to make their say. But at the end of the day, we have to lead, and we have to endorse who we think is best for our hours, wages, work conditions, and that's it, nothing else. Those are the issues that we should be involved in as a union. That's it. So those are the things I would do. Last but not least, for sure, is I believe that any hiring that the GP or GST office has, that they make the recommendation, but the vetting process is actually done by our district vice presidents at the executive board level. And they will make the final determination on who we hire as top level staff. I believe we need a vetting process so we know that we're hiring people that care and that know and understand our membership and are working on behalf of our membership. So those are some of the things that I would do, brothers and sisters. For time's sake, I'm going to ask, because I want you to be able to ask all the questions you can and get through them. But for time's sake, I'm going to tell you this. There is a path to victory. There are still 160,000 votes out there that have that in between who I've been endorsed by, which are a lot. Hopefully you go to our website, metro4IAFF.com, shameless plug, and look at our website, look what I'm about, and also look at our massive amount of endorsements. There are still some that need to be added to that website, but we're getting 3 or 4 a day. But between who I have endorsed for me and who our other 2 candidates have, there are still 160,000 votes out there. So there's still a lot of time to be left. This is definitely a sprint. And I'm up for the task and I'm up for the challenge. So I would love to have you join me in uniting to defeat what's dividing us. I would love to have you join me in not taking back our union, but actually making our union bigger, better, and stronger. And I believe that we only do that together as one united IAFF. I'm asking you to join me to start a fresh start within our union, to get rid of some of the baggage, some of the crap we've been dealing with in the last year and a half, and who's right, who's wrong. It doesn't matter. Let's talk about what the challenges are ahead of us and how we're going to tackle them and how we're going to seize upon the opportunities that are before us in this great union, because there are a lot of them. And I truly believe this union is great. It's a powerhouse. Let's continue to make it so. So with that, brothers and sisters, I can stop and take any questions that you may have.
Great. So real quick, folks, how we're going to do the questions is we're going to be using the raised hand feature that's located on the bottom bar of your screen under the participants button. please click that and we will answer the questions in the order they are received. We'll be unmuting participants once we call on them. If that does not work or you don't want to do that, please feel free to just ask a question in the chat and I can read it to Mahlon. Again, we will answer as many questions as we can in the next hour, but if you do not get your question answered, please email mahlon@mitchellforiff.com. Also, if someone asks a question that you were going to ask and you were satisfied with the answer, please lower your hand so we can get to more questions. On that note, if I see 2 questions in the chat that are similar, then I will move on to the next question just to make sure we can cover as much material as possible. So let's get started. If anyone has any questions, they can go ahead and use that raised hand feature and we can call on them. All right, well, I think we have a couple questions through email that we can get started with. Again, feel free to ask it in the chat or use the raised hand feature.
No one has questions? That means it was really good or it really sucked.
Let's get started from, this is President Jimmy Vineyard out of Local 2866. How can you help us break through to our membership that they are truly part of a trade union?
I believe it starts at the top. And when I say the top, it starts with the president of the IAFF and how we conduct ourselves and how the president conducts himself or herself. We are part of a trade union, and there's no other better example of that. And I know I keep going back to Wisconsin, but that was one of the ways, and one of the ways I talked to our members here in Wisconsin, that we had to stand up with our other brothers and sisters in the union, because it's not only is it the right thing to do, but they're going to come after us. And believe it or not, when Act 10, which was the bill that actually changed collective bargaining for public sector employees and didn't change it to get rid of it, there were a lot of private sector unions that stood with Governor Walker because they thought, well, they are a true trade union and they're not going to come after them. And Scott Walker even said, well, I see benefits in police and fire unions because of health and safety. And I see benefits in the true trade unions because they are giving health insurance and providing a pension and training for their members. We're all in this together. We are a trade union. We have a trade. We have one of the, in my opinion, one of the finest trades on earth, where we're actually going out putting our lives on the line for other people and for our community every day. And no one's getting rich from being a firefighter. No one's getting rich from being a paramedic. We do it because we love it. So how we get that point across is that we need to show how we stand together with trade unions. I sometimes AFL-CIO, who I sit on an executive board here in our state federation here. I testify and talk to the executive board of AFL-CIO in DC. Sometimes some of the things they do and say make me scratch my head, but at the end of the day, we're all in this together. And if we don't work together with other trade unions, it would be to our detriment. AFSCME, for instance, there were 63,000 members of AFSCME here in Wisconsin. AFSCME was started in Wisconsin here, and if you didn't know, in 1932. And they now have less than 8,000 members because of what our governor did with just one fell swoop of the pen. This is a highlighter, but you know what I mean? With one fell swoop of the pen, our governor took away collective bargaining rights for AFSCME, and now they're all gone. So our brothers and sisters need to recognize and realize that we are a trade union. But again, that information, that education starts at the top. And that's with us coming to union meetings. One thing I did here in Wisconsin was get back to the level of not just meeting our members at the convention or meeting our members at caucus meetings, but I actually went to members' work sites, in this case, our fire stations, and actually went to members' local and general membership meetings and talked to our members about what it is that we do and why this union movement is bigger than ourselves. So again, but I think it just comes with education, but the brothers and sisters got to see it at the top levels, and I will help provide that.
Great. So we're going to go ahead and let Stephen, I do not want to mispronounce your last name, but he'll be first up. If we can get him unmuted, please. Go for it, Stephen.
I'm Steve Azarella, president of the Charleston Firefighters Association Local 61. What I'd like to ask, and I'm sorry, I'm going to go back to regular camp, is Charleston, South Carolina is like you mentioned, a right to work state, has no collective bargaining. Recently, we've been polled as the 45th lowest state in pay. How do you as general president bring that to light and fight for right to work states to have better pay and benefits?
Well, I do it now, brother. I do it now. Again, Wisconsin is now a right to work state. There are many committees and sitting with elected officials that I'm a part of when it comes to trying to just raise simple civil service protections, which I know you need in South Carolina. And we talk about not having a true grievance or any arbitration process. There's places like in North Carolina that it's actually illegal to sit down with your employer and talk about hours, wages, work conditions. So how do we change that? Well, as you heard, if you go on my website, you'll see collective bargaining is one of the top issues. We have to now ask and require at the federal level, those stakeholders, meaning the AFL-CIO, AFSCME, SCIU, carpenters, the trades, teachers, all these unions that we're always there for. And that we're always, it's not just in Wisconsin, we're always marching with the teachers. I was in LA City when we were marching with the teachers and Prop 32 and other things. We're always marching with others and doing things and having the backs of those, even when it doesn't affect us. And again, I would do that every day. But we're now going to ask them, because there are two bills in Congress right now. There's one that the IAFF has, and there's one that AFSCME has when it comes to collective bargaining and having a national collective bargaining bill passed. We need to conjoin those. And if they can't be conjoined, we need to ask other unions to cease and desist and let ours go first and go through first. And I don't believe that's a lot to ask, because we've done a lot for them. And you know what? It's not Democrats or Republican issue, because when Democrats had the supermajority, they were 1 or 2 votes away. I know one for sure, where collective bargaining didn't get passed because one of the Democrats, the senators, didn't want to vote for military appropriations. But that bill should have been passed. So to me, it's not about Democrats or Republicans. It's about us using our stakeholders to have our backs in this case and making sure that we work with our Democrats and Republicans that are on our team or that believe that their members should have the ability to collectively bargain in their states to vote the right way. And here in Wisconsin, where I'm at, we always have divided government. Right now, we have an assembly that's purely Republican, a Senate that's Republican, and our governor is a Democrat. It wasn't for COVID-19, we still would have had our PTSD bill passed by now. That would essentially make it a presumption for our members to get the health care, to get what they need by way of mental injury. So I will tell you what I'll do is we'll work with stakeholders. We have to start somewhere. So as your general president, I will be there to testify at your state houses and at your local city halls to talk about raising protections, raising civil service protections, strengthening civil service protections, looking at presumptives, and making sure that at the state level you have them. And I'll be there as your general president. I believe that's our duty too, if you invite me. But I also make sure that at the federal level that we're fighting like hell to make sure that we get those civil service protections in place, but more importantly, collective bargaining. You got to start somewhere. Meet and confer is a great first step. Civil service protections, being able to have a simple MOU, those are great first steps. But at the federal level, we need to get collective bargaining passed. And I'll do it by working with our stakeholders, Democrats and Republicans as well, to get it passed.
Thank you.
Right, and now our next question, we're going to move over to Adam. Adam, I think you're still muted.
Unmute. How about that?
There you go.
There we go. All right. Hey, my name is Adam Sarwi. I'm the Secretary Treasurer of Local 2271 in New Smyrna Beach, Florida. We're about 40 members right now. And so we have four stations in a city of about 25 to 30,000 people in a given day. So my question is so we have our union dues that are $50 a month, right? And whenever we bring somebody in, there's always a running joke. Like a couple days ago, we had our regular meeting and one of the new guys wanted to get in the union. And always the joke is, oh, that's, an expensive sticker and hat and license plate that we're going to give you that has the IAFF logo on that. And so like, the running joke is, where does my $50 go? Like, what can I tell these new guys that come in there? What is the value in putting your $50 a month into the IAFF and having that come out, like, on the ground, and not a head in the cloud kind of way, but on the ground? What can I tell those guys? What is the value of joining the union, and what is offered to them?
That's a great question. And it's a question that we all probably get at any time if we're a local officer for any amount of time. The IAFF is more than just a sticker. And I say that all the time. It's when you look at what the union provides by way of fighting for hours, wages, working conditions, and health and safety of the family. You can tell them simply, look at like in Florida. You say you're from Florida, right, brother?
Correct.
So,
outside Daytona Beach.
Okay, so disaster relief, right, funding. When you guys see a lot of crazy stuff, and I watch it from afar on TV. I mean, some of the hurricanes and everything else, tropical storms that you guys see. Who has their back when that happens? Who has their back when their house is possibly under siege, or who has their back when their families need help, but their spouse is at work and on the front lines helping their community, because that's our jobs. Who has their back at home? It's the IAFF. And that's one of the things, just one of the very simple things. The disaster relief funding and how we have our backs when it comes to health and safety, when it comes to safer grants, when it comes to GIS mapping and MFAs that we use back at home. These are all things that keep us safe. He probably got his job because of the IAFF fighting for better wages and more actually staffing to make us safe. It's how he actually got his job. You can tell him that. But you know what, the IAFF card, I liken it to, and this is probably a bad example, but I'm just gonna say it. Tell the young members like I tell mine, and that is the IAFF union card that you get in the mail, and that number you get is like a health club membership. Like if you can buy a health club membership and pay the $30 a month, like I pay here for the health club membership. But if I actually don't go to the health club, I'm still gonna be a fat ass. So you have to actually be engaged in the union. You have to actually go to union meetings and hold your local officers accountable, right? Hold them accountable and ask them the questions. We all have running jokes, and that's fine. That's kind of what we do, right? That's what it is. But in reality of it all, they also have to be active participants of the union and come to union meetings, be involved. And it's on us as local leaders to make sure that we give the information in different ways and use different avenues to actually decipher that information. One thing I use here in my local very simply, and I'm not a real techie guy, but Facebook Live is something that we're actually able to broadcast our meetings. So we get, we used to get, our quorum is 12. We used to get, 13 or 14, sometimes have to call an engine or a truck to come by so we could have a vote. But we open up to Facebook Live. We don't let you vote on there, but we'll get 60, 70, sometimes 120 members, depending on what the issues are, to tune in. And again, we have to do a better job of educating our members as to what the union is. And hours, wages, work conditions, health and safety, that really is enough, but we do so much more than that. And IAFF provides so much more than that. You look at something simple as, and tell your member, look at COVID-19. It came out of nowhere, really, right? We have none of us, I don't think on this call have ever dealt with a pandemic. But what did the IAFF do? Very early. COVID-19 is now covered under the public safety officer benefit, making that clarification simple so that we've had 21, I believe, members of the IAFF, career firefighters in our union die. At least now their family has the protections, at least, or the ease of mind that they're getting that money to help, keep their family going. That's something IAFF did just like that. When you look at Tier 1A and Tier 1B when it comes to vaccines, and I don't know where everyone stands with vaccines, but our union's working hard to make sure that we are Tier 1A all across the country and that we get it first. So again, making us safe. So that's what the union provides. The union has our backs. And we have to be better as local, state, and I know at our international level of making that known. And I will do that for you, brother. I can tell you that right now as your general president.
I appreciate it, Mr. Mitchell. Thank you.
You can call me Mahlon. My
Man,
dad's name is Mr. Mitchell.
All right, well, let's hop over to the next question. This is going to be from Brandon Lee.
Hey, Mahlon. Sorry, I'm driving right now, so I'm just kind of listening in here. I'm not able to watch too much of the video. My question for you guys are, and we may be, just the only ones that's dealing with this, but at the local level, we're local 184 here in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and we've had an issue with throughout the years, our department, unions up, unions down, at the local level on it. When it's down, we seem to have and I know it's the autonomy thing that the union does, but when it's down, unless we provoke something from our district, that we don't really see anything. So our guys, whenever we get a president that's, kind of in between or whatever, and things aren't really going, in a whole lot of direction for us locally, unless we, instigate something from the district, we never really hear from those guys. So the guys that are on the rigs, they're not getting much from the district side of things unless, somebody's provoking it from those guys. So if a union locally is going down and just not doing anything, do you think that the autonomy that the international gives the local is a good thing, or do you think that there should be a little bit more proactive approach from the district that those guys are in to, find out why nothing's going on, why they're not hearing from them, and things such as that?
Now, brother, just to be clear, are you talking about your district vice president in this case, or when you say district, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, kind of in general, yeah.
Okay. Well, I believe in local autonomy 100%. I think it served our union well for the most part. There were probably some cases where that's not the case, but I think local autonomy is what makes us unique as a international union. I also believe us being one of the only unions that actually has folks that are actually currently doing the job, or that have done the job for sure, being our officers, serves our union well also. I can't speak on behalf of your district, brother. That's not my job and that's not my lane. But what I can tell you is that as local leaders, we have to reach out to our district vice presidents. A lot of people, and I can tell you this from being state president, a lot of my locals think like I know everything that's going on. I don't. So they will sometimes say like, hey, we had this problem up in Manitowoc. And I said Manitowoc because hopefully a lot of you have seen Making of a Murder that came out of Manitowoc, Wisconsin. But we have a problem up in Manitowoc, and we didn't get any help from the state association. And I just say simply like, brother, we didn't know about it. So I think, brother, being proactive, Brandon, and making sure you reach out to your district vice president will help. I know we're all over the place when it comes to how we're represented, but I know a lot of our district vice presidents, and they work their butts off. And I know that if you give them a call, I can't see any of them, no matter where you land or where you personally, how you feel about them. I can't see them not giving you the services that you need. So I think, again, it goes to the last question we just had. We have to be more actively involved in the day-to-day of our local members. And if they're not seeing the benefit of the union, again, I think the onus is on the international president and the secretary treasurer and our district vice presidents to make sure that our members see the value in their investment. One thing I would do is this, brother. Right now, the IAFF has a standing plan where they bring the top 100 locals by way of size to the IAFF to kind of see, where your money's being spent, essentially. It's seeing, IAFF actually pays for a couple officers from both the locals to come in and see every department and talk to every department head, every AGP, top level staff about what they do, what their department does. And that only helps the local officers to go back and convey that message now to their members. I would budget it, and it's going to take time. Not something that's going to happen overnight. But I would budget so that every local that would like the opportunity to do that would have the ability to come out to headquarters, see where their money is being spent, see what actually is being done on your behalf. And I believe that will only help you as local officers across your states, but also would help the international in getting the message back to the membership. Because you're going to go and say, hey, I've been there, seen it, touched it, felt it. Here's where our money is going. And here's what our international providing. And I think that can only help all of us.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it, man. Like I said, I guess more of the question that I was getting to was that if at what point should the district say, okay, we haven't heard anything from these guys in a while, we need to check on them? Because, you know, sometimes, like I said, these ups and downs, the guys underneath our local president may be getting discouraged, and, you know, sometimes maybe that poke from their district guy, you know, at some point do they say, okay, we haven't heard from, we'll say, my union, Hattiesburg, in over a year, so something's got to be going on. And I think that would help build the union stronger if they felt like, you know, the district guys, and I understand they're busy, and Danny has always done a great job. As soon as I've called him, he's always been on stuff. But if there's a union that's kind of fallen to the wayside on the local level, you know, if they were getting that push from the district, do you think it would help build us stronger as a union whole?
Yeah, yes, I do. And that would also build more camaraderie. So yes, I understand what you're saying, and I agree with what you're saying. And I believe that the district vice presidents try to do as much as they can and reach out. But I think you should also talk to your DVP about that. And I know Danny well, I know he does a great job down there. So I'm sure he's on it. So I would definitely think that would help, no doubt. And we did that like that here in our state, because there's a lot of locals that had no buy-in really at the time in 2011, or really saw sometimes a need in the state association. So that's another reason why I actually went back to the local meetings. And in a year and a half's time, I visited all 60 or 62 at the time, all 62 locals in our international or in our state association at their local meeting. And I did that in a year and a half time because of what you're talking about.
Awesome. Well, good deal, man. I appreciate taking time to talk with me.
Oh, yes, sir. Thanks for hopping on.
All right, so we're going to go to a question that was asked in the chat, and then Eugene will head over to you in the raised hand feature. This is Joseph Johnson, president of Local 5307, West Fargo, North Dakota. We just organized last month. We only have 14 members as a small and new local. How do we take advantage of the opportunities that are offered without a lot of money in our account?
Great question. Some of the things that you would see that I would like to see changed is that it's some of the things that we changed right here. We have a local that's a local of 5, Portage, Wisconsin. And what we did, and some of the things I talked about, and I won't repeat myself, but we made our educational conference free for 2 members from every local to be able to come, because some couldn't afford it. I believe with some of the alts that we have, and alleged conference has got to be in DC, obviously, but I believe some of the things that we have in the IAFF, some of these hotels, some of these registrations, all registrations, I think, but it costs money to put on a conference, but some of this is just too expensive. Some of these hotels, I mean, we're firefighters. We don't need to be at the Ritz-Carlton. Now, we need to be at a union hotel, in my opinion, for the most part, but we don't need to be at the nicest union hotel in the cities. So we can cut some costs, hopefully, that way. I also believe that, you know, there should be some scholarship programs that I would like to bring to the IAFF. We did it here in the state. If you go to our state educational conference, which we call WALTS, it's a Wisconsin Affiliate Leadership Training Summit. Obviously, we kind of stole it from ALTS. But if you go to our WALTS, and that's free now for 2 members from every local, that there's a scholarship opportunity that we started here at the PFFW to allow locals of 100 and under in size to be able to put in for a scholarship. We'll pay for their flight, their hotel, as well as their registration for alts. So that for 2 members from any local of 100 and under in size. And I've never denied not one local from being able to take that opportunity. And we've had a good handful of locals that actually have taken that. I would also think that, you have to get to know your district vice president, and as well as make sure you understand and know your state president, and that you can seize upon everything that the IAFF has to offer. I think the other thing I talked about earlier, and that is having every local of every size be able to come out to the IAFF and see what the IAFF can do for you will help. The IAFF does it. Had a new local starter kit. We have one here at the state as well. I would read that over. And again, talk to your district vice president. That's what they're there for. Ask them the questions that you're asking me, quite frankly. But I'll tell you what I'll do as your general president, if I'm so fortunate, and that is make sure locals of your size and locals of every size have my personal cell number. And a lot of you have it now. I'll give it to you right now. It hasn't changed in 20 years. It's not going to change from your president. It's 608-698-2333. 608-698-2333. You can call me now. You can call me if I'm your general president. That number will not change. And you'll know exactly what the IAFF can provide you, brother, if I'm your general president.
Great. All right. We're going to move into our question from Eugene here. Can we get Eugene unmuted so he can ask his question?
All right. I think I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name's Eugene Yednock with River Oaks Local 5264 here in Texas. My question is, I'm going to ask about what our fantastic politicians are calling pension reform. I was a member of 341, which is Houston, and because of one shady mayor, I'll leave it at that. He was able to single-handedly, he's destroying that fire department. He's making Houston, guys in Houston look at places like Detroit that have struggled, and they make it look like that's heaven on earth and we need to go there. It's terrible. He single-handedly stripped our pension away from us. We managed it ourselves, and literally overnight, he took control of it. If one man is able to do and bring so much, I'm going to call it devastation to a department, I understand the autonomy and letting things be handled on a district level. And I'm not knocking our district help. Our district vice president has done a pretty good job for us. But at what level would you take note? Because if you can have the third largest fire department in the country be run into the ground, I left and I've gone to a smaller department. What's to say it should be easy for a pension of a smaller department just to be overnight gone or changed or made into a 401k like they're doing in Houston now for all the new hires. So I guess my question is what would you do? At what point do you feel like you should make a stand as the general president? And what are you going to do to keep these jackass politicians from stealing everything that we work for?
Well, brother, I'll tell you, and you're talking about Mayor Sylvester, is that who you're talking about?
Oh God. Yeah. We don't even have to say his name. That's
You want
the
me to
devil.
say his name? Sorry.
No, it's all good.
No, he is bad news. I mean, it's terrible. I mean, there's nothing good about him. And jackass is the right word, but I could think some other. But
Trying to keep it PG, brother.
Yeah. Well, first of all, rallies and speaking out, they're all great, right? And making your voices heard is great. That's the democratic process. But there's a time, and I love a good rally. Don't get me wrong. I would be there as your general president, rallying with you and making our voices heard every time. Every time you invite me, and every time that maybe I'm not even invited, I will be there. And working with the district vice president and local officers. But there's a time when you have to take it from the streets to legislatively and to the courthouse. I'll tell you what I have, and one of my plans would be, and I've thought about this for a long time, because whenever really, I hate the word reform, actually, and I know I've used it in my spiel earlier, but whenever elected officials, Democrats or Republicans, start talking about reform, you should probably hold your hats, right?
Mm.
So what I would do is, I actually believe, and I've always said this, and I know that, a lot of our pension plans are municipal, some are statewide run pension plans like we're in here in Wisconsin. Some are some are down south, and others are 457, and some are 401ks, and some are defined benefit, defined contribution. I know we have the gambit within our locals, but what I would do simply, first thing I would do when it comes to pensions is, in any retirement security that our members have, is I would want legislation, and I would drive to hammer home legislation and get it passed that would not allow it, prohibit any state, any municipality, any entity from touching I'm talking police and fire, public safety officers. When I say that, public safety officers' pension and retirement security, so that they cannot take a pension holiday. So that's what's happening a lot of times, right? They take a pension holiday, like in 2005 and 6, and when things were good, and they didn't pay the employer's share. We're having that problem right in Milwaukee right now, where they didn't pay the employer's share because times were good, and they wanted to use that money for something else, and the investments were looking great. Well, of course, we all know 2008 happened, and now in 2009 and 10, they're looking at us and saying, hey, and now even, we can't fulfill a pension obligation because the pensions are too expensive for fire and police. But we've paid the employee share, right? We've paid our percentage in every month from all that time, but they took a holiday. So now the problem is ours now, and the onus is on us to try to fix it. And they want to do that, if you have collective bargaining, through raises, and they get out there first and drive the message home to the community that this pension obligation is too great. Firefighters' pension costs too much money. And we know, though, that if they paid their portion, we would be just fine, and we would be solvent. So again, that goes back to my point, brother, what I said earlier, and that is us driving the message when it comes to pensions, FLSA and overtime and other things, that they're going to be coming under attack for us. But first thing I would do, again, rally's great, yelling on a microphone, I have no problem with that at all. Matter of fact, I enjoy it a lot of times. But it comes a time where you go from the streets to the Capitol and to the courthouse. First thing we have to do is get legislation on the books that will prohibit any entity, any state, any municipality from actually taking pension holidays for our brothers and sisters that are working.
Right.
That's the first step, in my opinion.
You and I are closer to retirement than we were, being a rookie. It's hard because I'm not a politician, man. I'm better at overhaul and then migrating through a crowd of trying to get votes. But it just seems like, you work your entire career, and exactly what you said, we've paid in, we fulfill our share. We hear it all the time. We're firemen, we solve problems. We'll just make it work. And I'm tired of saying and hearing, we'll just make it work, because that's not going to pay my bills when I retire. And I'm worried about what's going to be there. So it's just our leadership at the very top, the position you're running for, I'm just going to say it's MIA. And it really, when you look to stretch out a hand and it's not there, to be blunt, it's bullshit. So I would like to see a more active approach. And that's what I'm looking for in leadership, because as well as I do, being officers, you lead by example and you get in the middle of your men. And I'm just not seeing that right now, nor have I in a while. But I appreciate your time, brother. Thank you very much.
No, thank you for your question and your honesty and candor. And I tell you, also when you talk about retirement security, 75% of us don't pay into Social Security. So our pension is our only means of any sort of retirement security that we may have for us and our families. So I get it, brother. And again, health insurance security as well, but I totally understand what you're saying, and I can't speak for anybody else other than myself. If I'm your general president, you'll never say that I'm MIA, one, and two, I'm going to have meetings like this. And one good thing, if there is a good thing, I don't think that, but COVID-19 has showed us how to all work remotely. And I believe what we're doing right here, right now, I will hold 4 of these a year for locals of all different sizes, for all districts and everything else, and still continue to work, as well as in-person meetings, hopefully when we get there at some point, hopefully very soon. There's nothing that replaces an in-person meeting, but these have proven to me that these are beneficial to hear straight from our members.
Thank you very much. Good luck to you.
Thank you, sir.
Awesome. And now, real quick, we'll give Mahlon a quick sec to breathe. I wanted to just plug again to make sure to register for the convention that's coming up. It is only $100, and registration is easier than it has ever been. We can go through all these processes, but if you don't vote, your voice ultimately will not be heard. So we want to encourage everyone to do that. I also want to plug again our upcoming town halls in case you want other members of your executive board or your local to join. We have one coming up on Thursday for federal locals. We also have one a week from today on Monday for districts 6, 13, and 15, as well as districts 1, 3, and 4 a week from this Thursday. Let's hop real quick into another question. This is from Mike Lynch. National collective bargaining didn't get passed when the Democratic Party controlled the House, Senate, and the White House. Do you think there is a path to get it through a Republican-controlled Senate?
The answer is yes, and I'll tell you why. It's because, first of all, it's a disappointment, as I said earlier, that it wasn't passed when the Democrats had the majority. There's no excuse for that. But I'll tell you why, and I have a history and have proven to be effective in working with Republicans. A good friend of mine is actually our Speaker of the House, Robin Vos, who's a Republican. But he's, if you will, the most powerful Republican in our state. And we still are able to get things done. When Governor Scott Walker came and actually did Act 10, again, which is a bill that took away collective bargaining, we were out on the street arguing against it. When he asked us not to, he said, I don't want to see you at the protests. I don't want to see you at the rallies. He was telling me, my colleague, and please, Jim, the president of WPPA, our state police association, I don't want to see you at any of the rallies. I don't want to see you at any of the protests. We not only told him no, but we told him hell no, and we were out there. But what a lot of people didn't know is that when I was rallying at 12 o'clock, we would rally around noon at the state capitol. We would do that for an hour, 2.5 hours. And I would come back to the state office, change into a suit, and go meet with Governor Walker. And the reason I was meeting with him was because while he made firefighters exempt from the changes, because the way our state statute is written, he did not exempt our standalone paramedic services, who are also in the IAFF. So these are members who are paramedics and don't do any firefighting or structural firefighting. They're paramedics at their municipalities or district. They were not exempt, so they were losing collective bargaining. And we have a lot of members that are paramedic standalone EMS systems. There's 5 or 6 of them affiliates in my local that are standalone paramedic systems, and we have some all over the state. So I was actually working out, not a deal, but just asking him and working out a way to also get our members that are IAFF members exempt, and rallying against him an hour or so prior. So we were actually able to get that done, believe it or not. It took many meetings. It took many of me, eating crow essentially, and going into this office and asking and working out something where we could get it done. So we do the same thing with collective bargaining. And my point in saying all that is I have a history of working at the time, one of the most anti-union governors in the country. We're still able to get things done, still able to get things passed. So now is the time, right? In COVID-19, unfortunately, it's a terrible thing. Terrible. Obviously, the pandemic obviously is terrible. But silver lining, we were able to get the public safety officer benefit passed. That was with a Republican Senate, a Republican president. We should be able to get this passed with COVID-19 and all the things that we're dealing with on the front lines. If there is I don't care, Republican or Democrat, that votes against us being able to sit down with our employer about hours, wage, and working conditions, and more importantly, our health and safety and the health and safety of our families, after all we've been through with COVID-19, people want to talk about essential workers. We are actually on the front lines. We are part of the bigger healthcare system. And I know I'm preaching to my own men and women, but we are going into a place that it's not a stabilized incident when it comes to COVID-19. When we bring somebody to the hospital, we know, hopefully, and we're giving them a report as to what they're going to see. We only can require, and we can only rely on the information that a passerby at time gives us. And we're running into that, and as we all know, because we all do the same job. So I know I'm preaching right now, but I'm saying if we can't get it done now with everything we've been through, COVID-19, this is I hate to use it as an opportunity, but this is a great opportunity that we have in front of us to get this collective bargaining bill passed once and for all. And I can tell you, I know we're all different when it comes to voting, when it all comes to who voted and who supported who, but I know Joe Biden, and I already have a relationship with Joe Biden. Kamala Harris, when I ran for governor, she endorsed my campaign. I was the only person in the race that had a sitting US senator, and a popular one at the time, that endorsed my campaign. So we not only need to hit the ground running on day one, I've already hit the ground. I'm already running. And we already have the relationship with Joe Biden. That's where it stops, or starts, I'm sorry. And then we go from there and make sure we hold everybody else accountable, Democrats and Republicans. This is the time.
Great. And real quick, just a reminder to folks, we do have another town hall after this, so we'll be trying to wrap this up right around 6 o'clock. If we do not get to your questions, feel free to join any of the other town halls or email mahlon@mitchellforiff.com. We're going to move on to one of the raise hands questions coming from Jerry Biggert.
Hey, thanks, Mahlon. Sorry, I'm on the street trying to do a little physical fitness to keep my largeness under control. But I've had the honor to work with Mahlon for years now on the educational, the waltz that he mentioned, our educational seminar. And one of the things that we've talked about and that I've shared with him that I think is super doable is to do a lot more with the PEP program, where we do more of a district type educational opportunity, but that we expand it and grow it to, where there's perhaps a full day that's dedicated to talking about the issues of your state or your district, and then a day of general education related to the topics that you pick that the IAFF has created modules for. And now with everybody becoming so much more comfortable with this type of technology, we could pop on to any local, to any, kind of caucus group meeting, whatever you're doing, and, weigh in on any issues at all that you have going on that you'd like just an outside perspective on, and to know all of the different resources that the IAFF has. What I've been on a couple of these, and I'm noticing that a lot of locals just haven't been made aware. We do have a lot of turnover. This stuff isn't fun like it used to be. So we get a lot of turnover of principal officers, and they just don't always get a big update on what's all available to them. So by popping on and doing these events in states or in districts, we can always make sure the members know what's all there, how to use it, and get them in touch with the people that oversee those operations. And there's so many DFSRs and service reps and PEP instructors that, there is a ton that can be done. And I have no doubt in my mind, after what we've done together here in Wisconsin, that this would be anything but second nature to President Mitchell. So, and that goes for all of the, different political services that can be brought to whatever state you're in, whatever county, whatever you need. There's just so many resources, and every one of these, I just feel like, man, these leaders just haven't been made aware of everything at their fingertips. So I think this, if Mahlon was president, which I sure hope he is, everybody's going to know what they have available to them and be encouraged to use it. So that's all. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Jerry. And one thing we did, and so everyone knows that was not planned. So thank you, Jerry, obviously, because he's out walking. But one thing we did is, real quick, is, at the convention, we got to follow parliamentary procedure. So that got cumbersome. At our educational and our legislative and leadership conference, that we already had an agenda set and session set, so we didn't want to run late. So we started a local officers meeting. We changed our convention from annual to biennial. That saved 62 cents per cap. We gave 100% of that 62 cents back to the locals to save money. But we also started a local officers meeting, and basically every local officer comes for free. We don't charge anything. We all get in one room at a hotel. We move it around statewide. We do it now every 2 years since our biennial convention on an off year. And it's just us getting in a room. We're having our attorneys maybe give just an update about what's happening around the state, but it's literally just us talking just like this, but in person, and us getting a feel for what our members, where we are, where the problems are, just getting a better communication. I would do the same thing in the IAFF. Obviously a lot bigger scale, but this right here, we've had 60, we have 66 now. We've had 210, I think, on the other a week ago. So we can do this all the time.
Great, and let's move on to another hand that's raised. This is going to be a question from Scott Elkins. Scott, you have the floor.
Hey, one sec. Let me. Sorry, moving away from my family real quick. My crazy kids. So one of my biggest concerns over the last couple of years as the president was for healthcare, retirement healthcare, and I know you mentioned potentially moving Medicare to 55, but as someone that's a part of a department that's got 55 or 35 members, we're not able to be a part of a big healthcare system like some of our cities around us that you can stay in the healthcare when you retire. For us, whenever you leave, you're kind of SOL. You're going to be on COBRA, getting your own healthcare. And so we recently looked into the options of the nationwide PEP plan, which is a pretty good plan if your employer will be a part of it. I'm kind of curious if you have any suggestions or any ideas for healthcare for smaller departments, post-retirement healthcare options. What your ideas are there?
Well, yeah, brother. The plan. So there's two things. The plan that I was alluding to, and maybe I wasn't clear, is that, us starting a healthcare plan at the IAFF for active duty as well as retired members. That would be separate. That's going to take long. I mean, that's convoluted. That's going to take time, effort, energy, and that's a trust and everything else. And that's going to take time. But the other bill that is early buying of Medicare at age 55, that bill will affect every public safety officer in the country, big locals to small locals. Early buying of Medicare at 55. And that's, again, another option, another tool in the tool chest that we would have. We're local 500. We don't have any true retiree health insurance either. We have an RHS plan, basically a 457, that will help offset the COBRA amount like you're talking about. And actually, most of our locals right now that have retiree health, because one thing that Scott Walker did do here in our state, he took away the ability for us to bargain over co-pays and deductibles and healthcare plan design. So a lot of cities are unilaterally taking away retiree health for new hires. But anyway, going to your point is, I believe us having, my idea is for us to have a plan where active duty members, and probably starting with retired members and having a true retiree health plan. I know the nationwide plan, those are all good, but having a true plan, low cost, that our members can buy into. But that's going to be working with our healthcare partners across the country to be able to put in place. But the early buy-in of Medicare is a law or not a law. It's a draft and a bill that's on the books right now that would affect all of us if passed.
Yeah, I know. The major concern with me is, the average national firefighter retirement is 50 to 55. Medicare doesn't kick in until 65. Nothing's been set in place yet. We're just kind of stuck on that side of it, unless you got a wife that you can get on their account and whatnot. But I feel like that's a big thing to work on, is that post healthcare retirement plan. And I know with my department, we're small. We can't join unless in Texas, if you're in a department of less than 200 people, you can't stay on a healthcare plan. So you're basically on your own. So that's a huge expense to retire. For us, it's, you're thinking about going from 55 to 65, that's 100 to 125 grand. And for us, if we have a 401k, 401a, and you got $1 million, there's at least 10% of your retirement going just to get to healthcare, just to get to 65. So for us, it's a big deal. I was lucky to get something passed in my department to help with that, but I don't know if that's, an issue that y'all are considering. So it looks like it is on the potentially moving the healthcare or Medicare down to 55 for firefighters, but I know for us, that's a big deal.
I think that's a big deal for everybody, brother. When people, the number one question that people ask normally is when they retire is, our pension's great, but how am I going to pay for health insurance? So again, that retirement, that early buying of Medicare will affect every public safety officer in the country. And again, that's long-term planning, but it's actually a bill that's written. It's something that we've lobbied on for the last at least 2 years, and would have been on the docket if it wasn't for COVID-19 this time. But again, using our partners, in this case, using Congress and trying to get that passed, that's going to be one of our top priorities if I'm your president. And that getting passed would be a huge burden lifted off the shoulders of our brothers and sisters when it comes to retirement and looking at retirement.
Definitely. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Scott. Let's move on to another question. This is from Brian Willingham. Just a heads up, we got about 10 minutes or so, Mahlon.
Okay.
Yeah, you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Again, Mahlon, I just want to say thanks for all you're doing for everybody. I know this is a lot of work. Everybody out here, I'm the Executive Vice President for Local 493, United Phoenix Firefighters. I may be on the wrong Zoom call. I know there was some confusion with some of the scheduling tonight. But I just want to say a couple things. We've been behind you for a month, and we're proud of the way you're carrying yourself. The message that you're sending is positive. And, we have 100% membership out here with 2,600 members. Every single person in a right to work state in our local pays dues. The majority of them pay PAC as well. Some of the concerns we're having right now has more to do with one of your opponents. And right now, Edzo pays his secretary, also his cousin, $175,000 a year, and his longtime childhood friend, $237,000 a year. He was not a firefighter, and he has, from my understanding, no union experience. So we have a lot of concerns about that. Edzo also tried to change their pension from a 5-year fully vested pension, which none of our firefighters get, even some of the members, even the last individual that spoke here. We got firefighters across the country that don't have pensions, and Edzo tried to move their pension from a 5-year to a 4-year pension. He hired a union busting outfit to come in and represent him when he exposed some of our dirty laundry. And we're just really not happy with that. So one of the questions we had for you, these are obviously very generous packages that our IAFF members are on the hook for. And we want to know what your plan is for transparency and to get some of that stuff under control. And as you know, we absolutely support you. We're going to be behind you from the beginning. Last month when you first announced, we were on board. And we're going to be there right through the end, man. We are not going to waver. We won't be switching parties. We're 100% behind you. We trust you. So I'll leave it at that.
All right. Well, thank you, brother. So when I talked about in my initial remarks about giving, so what I want to do is simply give more power and influence back to the members, and not taking the union back, but giving more power and influence back to the members. I believe that the way to do that is to give more power and influence back to their elected representatives, our elected representatives, and that is the DVPs. So when it comes to hiring top level staff or assistant to the general president or anybody within the office of the GP or the GST, I believe, again, the GP, GST make the recommendation, but those individuals will be vetted by the IAFF executive board, district vice presidents, and they will make the final determination on hiring, so that we don't run into issues with, certain hires not being for unions, certain hires, this, that, and the other. I'll tell you real quick here in Wisconsin, when I became president in 2011, my executive assistant, who I inherited, we were out to lunch one day, and this is probably about a year after me being president. She actually told me
She wasn't drinking or anything. This was at lunch. She actually told me that she hates unions and dislikes politics. That was our executive assistant of the Professional Firefighters of Wisconsin. So you can imagine my amazement. Well, she obviously wasn't with us after about 6 months, but when it comes to hiring, it's very important who we hire because they're also representing our members, whether it be out in the forefront or back in the back office. And I believe that we need to have more eyes to look at any hire that we have. And I would do that through the members, elected representatives, and that's the district vice presidents, to have everyone be vetted. Just like you're vetting me right now on this call, I think who I hire should be vetted as well.
And I appreciate that response. So thank you.
Sir.
Right, and Mahlon, we just got a couple more things quick. First, I just want to say thank you to all the folks who hopped on the call this evening. If you liked what you heard, this is a member-driven campaign, and what we're going to ask is for folks, if you liked what you heard, if you can chip in 5, 10, 15, 20 bucks. We're doing everything that we can to make sure that we can continue to have these Zoom meetings and talk to as many members as possible. We'd also be proud to have your endorsement and support. If you liked what you heard, feel free to spread the message to other folks in your union. We can also provide the recording of this town hall in the follow-up email that we will be sending out to you today or tomorrow or the day after that. Mahlon, I want to end with one question. This is from John Brady. Who said, my primary concern is for public safety. At my local level, we have worked with our FOP who represent the local LEOs and gotten much done. Mike responded to that. John, I understand your primary concern. The path through the Senate would most likely be all or none. Additionally, in this hyper-partisan time, we need all labor on our side to survive. Listen to his story in Wisconsin with the quote, and then they came for me. So I wanted to see if you wanted to end with a note on that.
John, didn't I talk to you earlier today? You're in Georgia, right? Or no? I had that mixed up.
Yes, you did.
Okay. I was losing my mind here. All right. So what's the question again, John? Please tell me. Say it again.
Oh, the question was the fire EMS bill or public sector totally. And in our local, we've dealt just with our county commission getting things taken care of with our pay scale. We had to just do it for public safety because there just wasn't a funding for everybody. So I'm just talking about more or less where it goes to in our local sector here. But I wasn't really, commenting on the federal thing, but locally, our major concern is just for firefighters, well, law enforcement, because we work very closely with them here in our local.
Right, and I mean, and there's no doubt, Brother Brady, that's where the rubber meets the road at the local level. And everything we do at the IAFF, in my opinion, should enhance that efforts, and that's why local autonomy is important, because we all work differently back at the local level. We all work differently. Some of us are counties, some of us are district-wide, some of us, like CAL FIRE, they have to bargain with the governor. It's essentially their mayor. So we all work differently. And I believe that's why we have the DFSR program, district field reps that work under our district vice presidents. And that's why we have a field rep program as well, and the PEP instructors that help educate our members. That's why it's important that the IAFF, our main goal, and if I'm your president, I'm not going to DC to be some sort of union boss or to be your boss. The word servant leadership to me actually means something. And I actually sometimes hate that word because a lot of our chiefs say it, but they really don't mean it. But servant leadership to me means that I'm there to support you and your efforts back at home. Doesn't matter D or an R behind their name, especially at the local level, because they don't have to declare in most states, but it's about how we work and how you work with your common councils, your town, your counties, and how the IAFF can be assistance in those efforts. That's what we're here for. That's what you pay dues for. And I don't believe that you should pay dues and then have to call out to DC to beg for it to come back to you, back at home. No, it's our job to know what's happening on the street. And it's our job to back you up in anything you're doing, in any of your efforts. And that's what I will do. That's what I do as state president. That's what I'll do if I'm fortunate enough to be your general president. I'm not going there to be your boss. I'm going there to work on your behalf.
And that's what we will do as an IAFF. And you will see what servant leadership really means if I'm at the helm, if I'm working on your behalf. And I hope to do that. And what we're doing right now, these things will continue. And I would ask you this. I asked this, and finally, and I'll stop talking, Taylor, because I see you looking at me via Zoom. But I would ask you this. Call any local officer in Wisconsin. And I'm not saying they all love me, but I will tell you this. You can call any local officer in Wisconsin. And I'm not going to tell you one to call because you'll think I set it up. Call any local officer in Wisconsin and ask how our state association works as a team. Ask how I work as their state president and what my philosophy is, and ask what we do here in our state. Now, we're not perfect. Again, I'm not perfect. I make plenty of mistakes. But us working together as firefighters for our members, that's perfect. And that's what we do. And it's not hyperbole to me. I'm not BSing you here. This is really what I believe in. This IAFF has given so much to me and my family. It's changed my life. And it's changed a lot of our members' lives. And that's what this union is about. We don't always get it right in the IAFF. I definitely don't always get it right as a state president, but I work like hell to make sure that everything we do is a member-oriented decision. And you can ask any local president. I ask you to look up in the registry, call any one of our local officers and say, what do you think about Mahlon Mitchell? Open and honest question. And I'm just telling you to do that because you also should do your homework. You're hearing from me, you heard from Ryan Hintz from Green Bay, but you call any local president and you ask how I work and what I do, because I believe it's important to be a good union officer. It's important to be a good firefighter. It's important for us to be good husbands and spouses and wives and everything else, but it's more important to be a good man. And I strive to be that, and I want to be that for our members. So please call any local officer. You also have my cell number. Call me, and you can ask me any question you guys want. And I'm an open book, man. And that's how I'll be if I'm your general president as well. So I'd love to have your support. I'd love to have your endorsement. I'd love to, I want your vote even more. But again, if I don't have your endorsement, there's some people in line, I believe, that have endorsed Brother Kelly, and that's fine. I'll tell you right now, if I'm your general president, I'm going to work for everybody. I'm going to work for all our members. I don't care who you endorse, because this is about our international, and this is about the future of our great union. And internal politics be damned. Elections are going to handle themselves. After the elections are said and done, we have to get back to work on behalf of the members, and that's what I want to do. And that's what I'll do as your general president. So thank you for your time. Thank you for joining in. Please join in if you have more questions on another town hall that we're going to have. We're actually going to have another one on December 21st. I believe it's going to be open up to everybody. So that should be interesting. So please join in and make sure your voices are heard at the ballot box. Even if you're not going to attend convention virtually, all you got to do is pay the $100 and you will get a ballot mailed to your house. So you get to make your voices heard. So please be involved in this process. It's a very important election.
I'll do it,
Thank
sir.
you all. Thank you, John. Sorry, I gave a long answer to your short question, but.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
All right, man. Thank you. Stay safe down there in Georgia.
We'll do it. Bye now.